Peace be upon you. I am Pt11. This is Qur'an Nation, and welcome to part 11 from the Islam of the Quran to the Islam of the Hadith. Imam Al-Shafi'i, the true founder of traditional Sunni Islam religion. The title is The Abrogator and the Abrogated Mechanism. So, there is no doubt that Al-Shafi'i was not the first to speak about the abrogator and abrogated, but he is undoubtedly the first to base them on a mechanism that is self-existent. The first person to use abrogation was Malik bin Anas, only once in the Muwatta in the context of his words in the chapter on the bequest to the heir on the authority of the verse 180 in Al-Baqarah. If he left a good bequest to the parents and next of kin, and he said that it was and then he said it was abrogated. It was abrogated by what came down from the division of statuettes in the book of God. So Malik abrogated this verse. That means he thought, why would God bring down two verses? One is bequest and one is inheritance. The first one is God is the human's choice. God gave human a choice, and then the second one, yeah, that was God's choice. So it's only right that God's choice comes first. So he could understand that God gave human being two choices. When they're alive, they like to manage their finances. They could do a bequest, and if they all of a sudden die or something happened, he couldn't manage it. Then it's inheritance law. So it's two choices. That's what it means when Quran breathes into life. But they didn't understand it that way. So they said that the first one was abrogated because God's choice comes first. So they abrogated it just because based on his limited understanding, not God's understanding. Although Malik has a lot of differences and contradictions in his book, where he leaves matters open, there is the effect of saying the abrogation in this place. Verse 106 of Surah Al-Baqarah, we do not abrogate a verse or abrogate it, we bring something better or similar to it. Al-Shafi'i gave permission to the qualified interpreter to them, not to what God requires to them. The Shafi'i gave permission to the qualified interpreter to abrogate the revelation if faced with an intellectual contradictions. Not that the detraction is in the book of God, but the inability of the interpreter to understand that God wants to give man two options in his order. Al-Shafi'i released from the bottle the demons of manipulation to the Quranic text. And of course, the first victim of all this was the woman's share, was women. As we could see later on in other videos, that women got half of the male. And that's not what the Quran says. But this is Shafi'i religion. And quoting a Shafi'i, since it is not the divine sayer of this text who determines what is abrogating and abrogated from the verses, but rather he is the human interpreter of this text. Al-Shafi'i authorizes interpreters to manipulate Quran verses based on what they see fit or logical based on that person's limited background, knowledge, or experience. And we know most of the people were like they were in the desert or in that day, present day Iraq, where the civilization just started, and the background of the Arabic tradition and culture was still there, is still hovering over the head, and all the people converting from other religion or other area from other areas, everyone carried on their own baggage. So each one wanted to come up with something new, but they could not help it that to drop in a couple of their own backgrounds and old baggage into the Quran and into the translations just to spice it up a little bit. It seems nice at that time, but now it doesn't. Wherever there was a conflict or a difference in meaning, or even just a difference, this interpreter could delete it by operating the abrogator and abrogated mechanism. And this mechanism, unfortunately, will only impoverish the Quranic text rather than its enrichment, closing and hardening, closing and hardening it, not opening the sport to breathe into life, especially in the era that would be adopted by the men of Renaissance in the name of the age of error. So we see the accumulation of Al-Shafi'i's mistakes and consistent deviation and twisting and turning the text and taking out and chopping it up and putting meanings and making rules and regulation and conditions and requirements, and he breaks them and make them as he sees fit. What a lot of people don't realize, I mean, there were people who objecting to him that back then, but the crooked rulers and the scholars only saw from a Shafi'i viewpoint, and the rulers supported him, so it overran everybody else. And now, over 1400-year period, it's been established now. Nobody really, everyone's taken it for granted, but nobody's really gone back and looked into the source and see what Shafi'i, the book, the Shafi'i book, the mother, the message. It's a good book. Even when they try to read it and understand it, and see the contradictions, they can't, because they really lived the life of a Shafi'i religion. They really live in it. But since they were growing up until he went to school and graduate, and then he wants to uh, do a redo of it, or investigate it, he can't, because he's already brainwashed with the Shafi'i. So it's too late a cycle. It's hard to happen unless you leave the flock, like myself and like and most of the people and generation. A lot of people from every generation is leaving the flock now. They're not Sunnis, they're not Shafi'is, they're not Sunnis, they're not Shia, they're not Sufism, they're not no one. They just plain follow the Quran. These are the people that understand now. They can see it from the outside. They're thinking outside the box. Meanwhile, the people who are brainwashed, they're still in the washing. Sorry, they're still in the washing and the rinse cycle. So it's that's what we're here for. We're trying to educate everyone. Lock the microphone. Uh, into seeing the truth, and let them think for themselves after that. So we're not saying, we're not forcing anybody to come or to renew their Islamhood or faith. We're just saying, think for yourself. These are the tools. These are the points. So what do you have to say? After we tell them that, then there's nothing we could do. We did our part. Of course, we're doing it. I'm doing it for my children, for my family, for my friends, and whoever needs it. I'm not claiming that I'm a scholar or I'm a person of knowledge and everything, but in this subject, I've been hurt a lot. I've been hurt a lot, and I don't. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are hurting, and but don't know the way out. So I'm just giving out a hand. Whoever wants to, whoever wants a hand. Again, I am Qadi Tayyib. This is Quranomics. We'll see you again with number part 12.